and I'm the founder of the Front Range Explorers Meetup Group and the Facebook page. And I'm the guy on the left with the red helmet. And my partner Ben and I just climbed the Ellingwood Arête, which is on the Crestone Needle, which is about a 5.7. A lot of fun to do. And I'm hoping one day that I can maybe hike and climb with some of you at some point. So just a couple things. I have, this is brand new software, so hopefully there's not too many glitches here. It looks like there was about 40 people who RSVP'd, and I only really have room for 30. So hopefully no one has to jump off. If you do, you might have trouble jumping back on, but that's okay because I am recording it, so it's all good. Seems like everybody can hear me, so that's good. So I have a lot to cover today, and we only have about 35 minutes, so I'll kind of jump into it. So as some of you know, my passion is the outdoors. I love hiking, backpacking, rock climbing, mountain biking, and of course climbing all the peaks in Colorado, or at least trying to, including all the 14ers. And as some of you know, I started a 14ers training program about a month ago that's going really well. We have 10 people in it so far, and they're learning a lot. They're getting strong and fit. They're having a lot of fun, and with the ultimate goal of being self-sufficient in the mountains and to climb 14ers. So since it's going so well, you know, I thought I would try to help more people and spread the word a little bit more about 14ers, so everybody else can enjoy the mountains too. So I'm basically sharing some highlights from the first few weeks of the training courses and modules with you guys. This is by no means a comprehensive overview of everything 14ers, but it should give you enough base knowledge to at least start climbing or hiking if you'd like. So chances are, if you're joining this meeting, you're either new to Colorado and haven't climbed any 14ers, or maybe you've climbed a few and maybe not had some great experiences or want to learn a little more. So either way, I am here to help, and I'm happy to help. And I love teaching people about the 14ers of Colorado. So thank you so much for joining today. So I'll just talk a little bit about myself first, and then I'll go into 14er basics. And then safety is always on everybody's mind, so I'll talk about a little bit about what will kill you on a 14er and what won't kill you on a 14er. And then I'll talk about the class system, which is really important for everybody to know knowledge-wise, so just so we're on the same page. And then I'll go through the 5 easiest and 5 hardest 14ers. And then I'll talk about some rules of gear and my rules of thumbs. And then if you guys stick around long enough, you can, you know, let me know what you think about the program so far and pick up some free stickers and things like that. So, you know, that being said, I will keep moving here. My screen is stuck a little bit, so bear with me. Oops, okay. All right, so sorry about that. So for those of you who don't know me, I was raised in Buffalo, New York, and if everybody's ever been to Western New York, it's really flat. There's not a lot going on there. There's not a lot of hiking, no mountains, obviously. I was always interested in the outdoors growing up, but I never was able to really do much. And then in college, I read a book called Into Thin Air. And if you've never read Into Thin Air, I highly suggest it. It's a tragedy on Everest, so it's a little depressing at the end, but it's really inspiring at the same time. So it really got me thinking about mountains. And I started reading about the 14ers of Colorado. And I was specifically fixated on Longs Peak. And so I decided to take the plunge and move to Denver in 2006, and I just started exploring. The problem with doing that is I had, you know, a lot of problems when I first started. First of all, I had no idea what I was doing. I knew nothing about mountain safety. I almost got killed many times. One I'll share with you in a second. I was in lightning storms. I almost got struck by lightning. I've had near hypothermia. I've fallen down snow slopes. I've almost gotten killed by goats kicking rocks down on me and people kicking rocks down on me. Spent thousands of dollars on gear that I didn't need, and I've wasted hundreds of hours getting lost or turned around. So I'm hoping to share a little bit of this knowledge with you right now so you don't have to go through the same things. And then you can see cool things like this 4th class ridge on Kit Carson eventually. So just real quick, and this is why I started this program and doing this presentation. You know, in 2008, I almost got killed on Longs Peak. I moved here in 2006, like I said, and I had, you know, I was way overmatched. I climbed the Diamond, which is on the face of Longs Peak. And for those who don't know, Longs is a 14er in Rocky Mountain National Park. And long story short, my climbing partner and I were in over our heads. We got lost, and we got lost on the face and had to spend a cold 36 hours overnight in this alcove here, right about here, a couple hundred feet below the summit. So definitely a good learning experience, and I'm glad I made it. But it definitely taught me a lot, and I'm here to pass some stuff on to you guys. So, you know, years past, I became more of an expert in the backcountry. I reclimbed Longs and the rest of the 14ers. I backpacked all over the country and climbed internationally. You know, I teach backpacking classes and 14er classes, and I'm fortunate enough to test gear, design my own stuff, which is cool. So that's just a little bit about me, and now I'll go into 14ers. And also, if you do have any questions, you know, during this time, feel free to message me, and I will try my best to answer them as promptly as I can. If not, I can cover some stuff afterwards. So, you know, this is a basics class, so I'm going to start from the basics and kind of move from there. So, you know, what is a 14er? A 14er is any mountain, obviously, that rises above 14,000 feet. There's 96 peaks total in the U.S. that rise above 14,000 feet, which we call 14ers, and 58 of them reside in Colorado. The rest are in Washington and California and Oregon. Very cool mountain ranges also if you've never had a chance to visit. But there are, you know, anywhere from 53 to 58 peaks, depending on whose list you go by. I go by 58 because why not climb more mountains? But if you go by the rule of prominence, it could be 53. So, you know, depending on what you want your experience to be, you can climb 53, 58, you can climb 1, 2, whatever you want to do. And of all these mountains, of the 14ers in Colorado, there's literally hundreds of routes on them. And, you know, some of them range from, you know, very easy to extreme, like some of the stuff I was doing on Longs Peak. And then just another kind of weird thing that people in Colorado tend to focus on is a 3,000 foot rule. And I personally believe it's what you want your experience to be, but some people are really stuck on this rule that you have to hike up 3,000 feet to actually summit a mountain. I say do whatever you're comfortable with. So just kind of a funny thing about that. Okay, so for those of you who don't know the different mountain ranges of Colorado, there's a bunch of them. And, you know, even if you don't want to climb all the 14ers, if you just want to go explore, it's well worth checking out all these little towns and cities all over Colorado. And the nice thing about chasing 14ers and peaks like that is you get to see all the different towns and cool geology and stuff like that. So starting in the Front Range, there's a bunch of different mountain ranges, but starting in the Front Range, furthest north is Longs Peak, which I just talked about, and that's in Rocky Mountain National Park. And that stretches all the way down to Colorado Springs for Pikes Peak. So if you live in the Front Range, it's basically the three mountains that you can see right away. So Longs Peak, Evans, and Pikes Peak down south, with Grays and Torreys as well. And as you move west, you hit the 10-mile Mosquito Range, and that's peaks like Quandary and Lincoln Democrat and Bross. So fairly easy mountains to climb. As you move further west, that's where the highest mountains are in Colorado. It's called the Salwatch Range or Presidential Range. So that stretches from Vail all the way down to Salida. So to the northernmost is Mount of the Holy Cross, and then you have Mount Albert, which is the highest in Colorado, along with a bunch of others that just stretch all the way down. Not very hard mountains to climb, so not very technical, not a lot of loose rock, but they are really fun. And then as you move west to Aspen, that's when you get the most dangerous, in my opinion, some of the most dangerous mountains anyway. That's called the Elk Range. And so you have the Maroon Bells, or what people call the Deadly Bells. You have Capitol Peak, you have Snowmass. All of them are characterized by very loose, very, exposed routes. And then as you swing to the southwest, you have the biggest mountain range, which is the San Juans. And that has some really cool towns. Telluride, Silverton, Ouray are all beautiful. If you've never been there, highly recommend it. And it's got a mixed bag of 14ers, really hard ones and really easy ones. So also, it's just a beautiful area to go to. And then as we round out, as we move counterclockwise, We have the Sangre de Cristos, and in my original picture at the start for the Cresto Needle, that's in this range, and it's some of the most beautiful rock, the best to climb on. It's all knobby, and the geology is very unique, and it's also a little bit of a mixed bag of harder hikes and climbs. And also, the only mountain that you have to pay for to go on, Culebra, is the furthest south, almost near the border. So that kind of rounds out the mountains. There's other mountain ranges that I'm not kind of mentioning here, like Indian Peaks and a few others that I go into in some other webinars and things like that. But if you go to these areas, I mean, you'll hit a good portion of the state and see some really beautiful things. Okay, so if you want to climb all of the 14ers, you need all of these skills, in my opinion. If you want to just, you need maybe just one or two. But I'll just talk about, what happens if you want to climb all of them. And again, it's whatever your experience, whatever you want your experience to be. If you want to climb one or two, that's awesome. If you want to climb just the easy routes, you can do that too. And if you want to climb, all the hardest routes, that's great as well. So if you do want to climb all of them, the most important thing, in my opinion, is fitness. So if all else fails, you're fit and you can typically get out of a lot of situations. If you're just, kind of working 9 to 5 and you're on the couch and you don't really do much activities, you're going to have a hard time climbing 14ers. You might be able to get up some of them, but it certainly won't be enjoyable. And I think all of us are here to enjoy it. So get on some sort of program like I do with the members that I have. We do training hikes every week, which is pretty cool. So it gets them pretty fit, and I would suggest you guys do the same thing. If you're not able to do that, I would get on a bike or do other things to try to keep your fitness up. The next thing is mental toughness. So a lot of the times, because of the storms come in pretty afternoon time frame, you have to get up super early. And for like Long's Peak, for example, it's 15 miles round trip, 5,000 vertical feet. So you can't start at 6 or 7 in the morning. You have to start. I've started actually at midnight sometimes, just so I can make it up to the summit. So obviously, when mental toughness comes in, you have to wake up early, way earlier than you're expecting, maybe without coffee, maybe without a lot of food. If you're getting out of your tent, you have a headlamp on, very uncomfortable, very cold. So you have to have that mental toughness to get up and then make it through the entire day, and that just comes with time and practice. And then if you're going to climb all of them, you need to have some basic understanding of some climbing, in my opinion. It makes things a heck of a lot easier. Basic climbing techniques, scrambling techniques, which I'll get into in a little bit. But that's really important. And then experience, you can learn like I did the hard way, or you can take webinars and classes like this and things like that, which I highly recommend. But you need a mix of both. So you need to get out there, and climb whatever you can. Doesn't need to be a 14er, but just climb whatever you can. So you have practice reading the mountains, weather patterns, understanding the snow conditions, things like that. And then survival skills. You need to be able to, because anything can happen. You could do all the planning, you do whatever, and you might have to spend the night for whatever reason. You might get lost. You might, things happen. Injuries happen. So you have to be able to understand how to spend the night. You'll be uncomfortable when you spend the night, but you have to understand how to. So you need the right gear, you need the right knowledge and know-how and things like that. And then navigation skills. Inevitably, you will get lost, I promise you. And it's okay. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's actually, I think it makes you stronger to get lost. I've been lost dozens of times. I've had to go back to mountains dozens of times because of some reason or other, snow cover, or, you just get turned around. But it's important that you understand how to use a map and compass. We have a lot of technology now, which is good in some ways, but if you don't know your basic navigation skills and reading a map and following directions, you're going to get in trouble if you're in a sticky situation. So moving on here, and I apologize, sometimes my slides get stuck. Just bear with me. Okay, I'll do this route. Sorry about that. Okay, so jumping into safety, before we talk about what will harm you in Colorado, I want to talk about what will not kill you unless there's some extreme circumstance. So just to like clear the air here, and so everybody understands, things like bears, coyotes, and mountain lions, wolves, things like that. We only have black bears in Colorado, so you can leave your bear spray at home unless very rare circumstance. I've never actually heard of anybody dying from a bear or a mountain lion. They're out there, of course, and you have to respect their habitat and everything, but they are more afraid of you than you are of them. I promise you. So bear, you don't really have to worry about. Coyotes are too small. Mountain lions are definitely out there, and they definitely do, and you will probably not see them. But I don't think, have ever killed anybody in Colorado that I know of. Supposedly there's wolves that have been introduced to San Juans, but they're really of no concern. Elk and moose, I'll kind of put them together. Actually, if there's any animals that are the most dangerous, it's moose, because people try to get too close to them, take pictures. Same thing with elks. So as long as you leave them alone, you're not going to get hurt or injured or anything like that. And then elevation sickness. So if you're up above, 18, 19, 20,000 feet, you have a chance of getting pulmonary edema or cerebral edema, which is fatal. However, in Colorado, with the 14,000 foot peaks, you're probably going to get, if you're just kind of jumping off your couch and running up to the summit of a mountain, you're definitely going to get a headache without a doubt, but it's not going to kill you. So if you stay fit, you stay hydrated, you eat well, you train properly, and if you start to get sick and turn around, you're going to be just fine. So no problem there. And then just a couple more kind of dangers, but nothing that will fatally kill you. Rattlesnakes are definitely around. You guys probably see posts all over the place about rattlesnakes. So they're all over the place in the Front Range, and they live below 8,000 feet. They're in Castlewood Canyon all the way down to the south, all the way up to Boulder and so on, in the Front Range trails like Apex Park and everything. So you will definitely see them, but you will not generally see them above 8,000 feet. So you typically don't have to worry about them, especially if it's cold. But you can get bit, obviously, but typically the bites are 50% venomous. So half the time you're not going to get a venomous bite, but you always have to worry about that. But they can kill your dog. So if you are hiking with a dog and you get bit, and it's a smaller dog, that can be fatal. And the last thing, ticks are out there for sure. So do tick checks, especially when you're walking through higher brush. But I've done a little bit of research on it, and it looks like Rocky Mountain spotted fever there's only a few cases that have actually been in Colorado. So as long as you're doing tick checks and pulling them off of you, there's no dog ticks here typically. It's too cold for them. So you don't really have that much to worry about it. And so in my opinion, I really think that you have a better chance of getting killed on like your road bike or getting hurt mountain biking or something like that, as long as you properly prepare. So let's see here. Stuck again. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what can kill you in Colorado? So this is the really important stuff to take note and write down for sure. So fatalities happen every single year by all of these factors. So struck by lightning in summer especially is probably the most lethal thing in Colorado. So again, you got to wake up early. You got to get below tree line by 1 p.m. It's like clockwork in Colorado. So it'll be nice and cool during the morning, no clouds. You'll think it's all safe, and then if you start late and you're hiking up and you'll see these clouds build, and they don't look like much, but they build quick. And by 1 o'clock, there can be dead-on lightning storms. And if you're caught above tree line, you'll be the highest thing above tree line, and the chances of getting struck by lightning, greatly are increased. And then avalanches and snowfields, that obviously happens more during early season conditions. But you can actually, there's snowfields that you have to cross on a lot of these peaks. So you have to learn how to cross them. And if you don't cross them correctly, you could slip, like I've done before, and fallen down, several hundred feet potentially. And then avalanche conditions. A couple years ago, there was an avalanche course being taught by professionals, and 5 professional snowboarders, actually got caught in an avalanche and died off of Loveland Pass, which is unfortunate. So even the pros can get, caught up in this. And then the third thing that I think is the most deadly is rockfall, or it could be like a water bottle. So I was hiking on longs, for example. This is a different time than I got stuck, and I saw a water bottle fall off of somebody's bag, and it careened down and almost hit somebody, which could have been really bad. So wear a helmet, start early, stay above other climbers, and obviously if you're above other climbers, take real care to not drop rocks. And then falling, some people get above their ability. So understand your ability, and don't get talked into anything that you're not comfortable with. So do the research of the climb and figure out your ability, and don't climb above that, because that's when people really get caught. And this getting lost and exposure. This is exactly what happened to me. I did not take the time to do that at the time, and it almost caught me. So leave a note wherever you go, learn the basics of navigation, and you should be good. And this is just a relic in here about my spreadsheet that I'll be updating. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is what to expect during each season. So a lot of people ask me, when is the best time to climb? And it all depends on what you're after. So what I like to do is try to explain the different seasons and let people make their own educated guesses or educated determination on when they want to climb. So I'll just start with December through March, and that is, if anybody's a skier on this call, it's obviously the best time to ski at the resorts, and it's obviously when the most snow falls. So I think December is actually the snowiest month of the year, followed by March, or it could be reverse of that. But either way, you get a lot of snow during this time of year. So if you're going to go out in the backcountry and you're going to try to climb really anything above tree line, including 14ers, obviously, you need avalanche classes for sure. And let me know if you're interested in doing any of these classes, because I have some friends that do some stuff on Berthoud Pass for classes. You're going to need some sort of flotation, so snowshoes or skis, mandatory warm weather gear, obviously, and mandatory overnight camping. So Bierstadt, for example, or any of the other easier 14ers might be like 6 miles round trip in winter or in summer. But in winter, because the roads are closed, you're going to add, another 7 or 8 round trip miles. So if you go out there in like hiking, just regular hiking shoes and unprepared, you're going to have an awfully bad day. So just know that those conditions exist in December and March. And then April through June, that's when snow stabilizes a little bit more, although we had a ton of snow in May this year, so it obviously varies a bunch. But that's when snow stabilizes, and actually the best time to backcountry ski. But regardless, you need to take avalanche classes. You need to be prepared to stay overnight. And I would say that microspikes and or crampons and an ice axe is absolutely essential for hiking in elevation, just for safety purposes. So, if you're not, right now it's actually pretty good to climb in most areas, but a few weeks ago it was definitely still dangerous. And then July through October is by far the most popular time of year to hike mountains. So you'll see, conga lines of people going up these 14ers, which brings me to the point that, if you have time off during the week, it's definitely the best time to go. But, basically July through October is the best time to climb. But I would still recommend taking a helmet, ice axe, microspikes, depending on what route you're going to be doing, and then warm weather gear for sure. And August being the most popular. And then November is really a mixed bag. You can get anywhere from, feet to very nice temperatures. So I typically take that time of year off, honestly, and do mountain biking or whatever. So that is what to expect during each season. And then, so now I'll touch on the class system. And for those of you who don't know what the class system is, it just means the pure technical difficulty of the route. So when you're going to look for what 14er to do, you should be looking for, what class it is. So for example, Quandary is class 1. Okay, so that means the easiest. So basically what all of these mean, so we're all on the same page, class 1 is just your standard hiking trail. Okay, so that's just a walk up. So that means like anything in a front range, for example, for trails is just a walk up. Class 2 is like rock hopping, talus jumping. You might hear the word talus or scree. So you're just basically hopping around. Scrambling is when you start to use your hands. And that's, that's when you start to actually have to a little bit of climbing moves. Class 4 is when you're going to have to use basic climbing moves. So you're relying on your feet, you're relying on your hands to pull yourself up. In Class 5 is where ropes are required, typically. So you're talking about actual rock climbing. So protection, harness, gear, things like that. And then exposure is the amount of air underneath you. So it has nothing to do with the actual class. So you could have Class 4 that doesn't have a lot of exposure, or Class 3 that has more exposure than a Class 4. So you have to do the research behind that. So basically, it means the air underneath you. So Class 4, for example, typically is pretty exposed, so a fall from there could be fatal. And then you have to understand what type of rock it is. So, is it loose or is it solid? So loose rock would be an example of the Maroon Bells, and solid rock would be an example of Long's Peak. And then there's also snow, which means there's easy snow, moderate, steep, and very steep. So you have to understand if you're going up a snow route, what gear you need for that. And then I have actually 10 years in the making. I have a spreadsheet that has all of this information. So if you're interested in getting a hold of that, let me know for sure. Okay, so this is, a lot of people ask what are the easiest and hardest 14ers. So I'll go through those really quick. So when I say the easiest 14ers, I take everything into account. So this is, after I've climbed all of these 14ers, I've evaluated the routes, I've evaluated the mileage, the elevation gain, even how easy or hard it is to drive to places. So this is my list. Everybody's got a different one, but I believe that these are the easiest to climb. So Quandary, I think, is by far the easiest because it's right off of a paved road. And same thing with Bierstadt. So if you are just looking to do a couple easy 14ers to start off with, these are definitely the ones to hit. So Quandary is in the front range, Bierstadt's in the range. Democrat is near Fairplay area. Handy's is the only one that's pretty far away in the San Juans, but it's definitely worth a trip to do that. So my spreadsheet has basically all the peaks in the class and round trip distance all broken down, and so you can easily sort through which one is which. So those are the easiest. The hardest, on the other hand, so if you're not looking to do hard stuff, avoid these peaks for sure, because all of these have killed at least one person in the past couple years. And in hindsight, I should have added Long's Peak on here, because Long's Peak has actually it's killed more people than anyone. But in terms of difficulty, it's not as difficult the standard route. But anyway, Capitol Peak, Pyramid Peak, all in the Elks range. Very, very loose, very exposed, very difficult. Plus the mileage is getting up there too, and the vertical elevation, which makes it difficult. Crestone Needle is very hard. Little Bear, it's got a route called the Bowling Alley, which should tell you something about the rock. And then Sunlight Peak is very difficult to get to, although it's a great adventure. It's difficult to get to, and it's Class 4 easily to get to the summit. So these are the ones you want to, if you're not ready for this, admire them for now until you get enough skill to go do them. But once you do, these are just very fun peaks to be on. So those are the hardest. And this is just a sneak preview of my spreadsheet. So this has everything in there. And I can get this to you guys afterwards if you want. All right. So, I can talk for probably 3 or 4 hours on gear, and I do that. But for the purpose of this call, since it is the basics, I really just want you guys to take away, the big picture type stuff, and then you can kind of drill down from there. So I've tested gear for the past couple of years. I've made every gear mistake. So I've wasted literally thousands of dollars on gear. And these are my big picture takeaways. And if you can kind of follow these rules, for the most part, I think you'll be in pretty good shape. And then I have all sorts of checklists. So I have gear checklists, I have food checklists and everything. But okay, so these are really the big takeaways. So, you're definitely going to end up spending money, especially if you're just starting. But you don't need to spend money on stuff you don't need, right? So you want to spend the most money, in my opinion, on shoes and a backpack. So shoes or boots, whatever you want to do. So, and I know a couple places that actually video your gait. So as you're walking on a treadmill, so I think it's very smart to do that. So I would go in and do that first before you actually buy a pair of shoes or boots, because they can tell if you're flat-footed or you have like a weird arch like I do in my foot. But anyway, it's important to spend money on shoes, because if your feet, if you're or whatever, if you hurt your foot, you're not going anywhere. So whether you wear boots or shoes, spend money on those. And what I mean by that is, trail runners that I wear are anywhere from 100 to 120, and good boots are anywhere from $200 to $300 or so. Plus, you can go way out of control. But for hiking, that will get you there. And then a backpack, you don't ever want to mess with a backpack. That's like your lifeline. So make sure you get a good backpack. Make sure it's fitted properly, and you go to a lot of different gear stores to do that. I use Osprey. I think that's the best backpack. I have a couple different kinds, but Osprey is awesome. So if you're looking for a new backpack, check out Osprey for sure. And then, water bladders, I think, are worth their weight in gold. With the caveat of that being in winter, you're not going to be able to, they'll freeze basically. So, but in summer type conditions, if you're not using a water bladder, I'd kind of question that, because you want to keep hydrated, and that's a good way to keep hydrated. And if you're always pulling out a water bottle, that's kind of tough. So definitely buy a water bladder. Spend the least amount of money on rain gear and accessories. And you might wonder why rain gear, and I'll tell you, it's because rain gear typically only lasts 1 to 2 years, because when you put it on and you put a backpack on over it, or if it's in the sun too long, it'll actually wear away that waterproof sealing. So you can get the most expensive rain gear possible, in my experience, and it won't last. It'll last probably a little bit longer than the lower end stuff, but you're just kind of throwing your money away. Plus, it doesn't really truly rain here. It's not like the East Coast or Oregon where it just rains constantly. So I use mine actually more for a wind protector than anything. So I just use a, kind of cheaper rain gear, and like accessories, things like headlamps. You don't need to spend $80 on a headlamp. There's some really good headlamps for $10, $15, $20 at the most. So don't spend a lot of money on that stuff. And then trekking poles, I think everybody should use trekking poles, but it's a comfort thing. They're hard to, once you first start using them, they're kind of hard to use, but they'll save your knees, and they help you going uphill too. It distributes the weight evenly. And if you've ever noticed that you get like fat fingers, quote unquote, I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but that will mitigate it, because it keeps your hands higher towards your heart, so not all the blood rushes to it. That's kind of an added benefit to that. But a good pair of trekking poles are definitely advised. Everybody should be carrying a survival kit. Like I said earlier, check your backpacks. Go check your backpacks after this call, and check your survival kit. Make sure you have fire starter. Make sure you have first aid kit. The basics that will keep you alive for 24 hours or whatever. It won't save from massive injury, obviously, but it'll keep you somewhat comfortable. And then I mentioned this before, but always get a paper map. So if you're going to a new area, buy the map. Spend the $10 or whatever it is and buy the map for that area. I know there's tons of resources online, and that's cool, but if your phone dies or whatever, you're kind of out of luck. And then microspikes and crampons are expensive, but definitely worthwhile. Microspikes you can use in the front range, and I really like those tools. They're great. But for safety, early season, if you're going to do any of that stuff, definitely needed. If you've hiked in Colorado, you will get sunburn. It's just inevitable, especially if you're hiking on snow. The reflection will burn your face pretty easily. So sunscreen, sun hat, I should have put in sunglasses here as well, all critical. You don't need to spend a lot of money on those either. I mean, you don't need, $200 sunglasses in my opinion, but that's a personal preference. And then protect your dome or your head. So get a good helmet if you're going to climb class 3 and class 4. Do not skimp on that. I promise you it's not worth the cost of getting hit in the head with a small rock. And then keep your gear waterproof. So I use plastic bags, garbage bags, and Ziploc bags to do that. And you can kind of, and I have a couple good tricks for that too. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so this just kind of brings us back around. So this is why I started the 14ers program. I love teaching about this stuff. It's not just about the summit to me. It's about having fun in the outdoors. I love bringing like-minded people together. If you guys ever have questions about 14ers and things like that, I'm happy to answer. Definitely use me on my Facebook page and whatever else, email or whatever. it's always a safe place to ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. I think I can help you save a lot of time, and it's a place where you can, ask about gear too, and not, hopefully save you guys a lot of money. So this is a 6-week training program that I do. If you are interested in this, cool. It's all good. I'm still here available for you guys. You get 3 stickers, and it's a bunch of 6-week courses. And it's all members area, coaching calls every week. A lot of fun. We're having a good time, and there's optional in-person classes and things like that. So that is really all I had today. I'll open it up. And for a question, let's see, David, will you make this presentation? Yes, I will, David, I will make this presentation. I will record this presentation, and I will figure out a way to put it somewhere. I don't have the best answer for that right now, but I will figure out a way to do that. So are there any other questions? I'm happy to answer anything right now if you guys are wanting to chat, or just feel free to email me afterwards, or or message me on Facebook. I'm happy to answer. But I really appreciate you guys joining, and I hope you guys have a great day. Hopefully you learned something too. Like, this is, I know there's a lot of information, but I'm hoping it'll at least get you guys started to start hiking 14ers. So, and Sebastian, thank you. No problem. I'm glad you can join. So thanks a lot. You guys take care. Have a good night. I will talk to you guys soon.